Yesterday, we have finished reading the preface. Now I will go through some of this section quickly, like list of abbreviations, some of the important ones like AN, Anguttara Nikaya, and some of this BECE, this Burmese script, Chata Sanggayana at CE, Sinhala script at DN, Digha Nikaya. EE is Roman scripted from PTS, which is Pali Text Society. IT is Iti Putaka, which will be explained later in the general introduction. MN is Majjhima Nikaya. Let's see. Yeah, all of this mostly from commentary, like let's say PS, Papancha Sudani Majjhima Nikaya commentary. SKT is Sanskrit, SN is Samyutta Nikaya, and all of these are from commentary. UD is Udana, H is Vibhanga, VIN is Vinaya, the rules for monks and nuns. M is Visuddhimagga. All page reference to Pali text are the page numbers of the Pali Text Society editions. This one we will see when we read the sutta. There is like a number in a square brackets. So this refers to that page number in the Pali Text Society edition. This is some of the way to pronounce the Pali. For now, we don't really have to, you can just briefly go through. And if you encounter any Pali words in your reading, just read the best as much to the best of your capabilities. Yeah, unless you're really interested in learning the Pali language. So whatever words you see, just read. What do you think it sounds like? Okay, I will skip this part. Now the detailed list of contents, I'll go through very quickly. Chapter 1 is human condition, goes from introduction, old age, illness, and death, the subchapter tribulation of unreflective living, a world in turmoil without discoverable beginning, and each of these subsections has its own suttas to represent the sub headings. Chapter 2, the bringer of light. Intro, one person, the Buddha's conception and birth, the quest for enlightenment, the decision to teach the first discourse. Chapter 3, approaching the Dhamma, introduction, and these are all the suttas. Not a sacred doctrine, nor dogmas of blind beliefs, the visible origin and passing away of suffering, investigate the teacher himself, and then steps toward the realization of truth. Chapter 4, happiness visible in this present life, about upholding the Dhamma in society, the family, parents and children, husbands and wives, present welfare, future welfare, right livelihood, women of the home, and the community. Chapter 5, the way to fortunate rebirth. Intro, the law of karma, merit, the key to good fortune. There's giving, moral discipline, meditation, and chapter 6, depending on one's perspective on the world. One of my, I would say, my favorite chapter of this book starts with intro, 4 wonderful things, gratification, danger, and escape, properly appraising objects of attachment, pitfalls in sensual pleasures, life is short and fleeting, 4 summaries of the Dhamma, danger infused. From the divine realms to the infernal, the last one, the perils of samsara. Chapter 7, the path to liberation. Why does one enter the path? Analysis of the Eightfold Path, good friendship, graduated training, higher stages of training with similes. Chapter 8, mastering the mind. The mind is the key, developing a pair of skills. Yeah, and all of this from the sutta, and we're not going to read. Chapter 9, shining the light of wisdom, images of wisdom, conditions for wisdom. The discourse on right view, domain of wisdom. All of these are not going to read. This chapter ends with the goal of wisdom, which describes Nibbana with 6 sutta references. The last chapter, the place of realization, starts with the field of merit for the world, stream entry, non-returning, the Arahant, and end with the Tathagata. So this gives you the general overview of what we are going to read for probably a year to come. Okay, now let's actually read something that we can read together. General introduction, uncovering the structure of the teaching, the first subchapter. Though his teaching is highly systematic, there is no single text that can be ascribed to the Buddha in which he defines the architecture of the Dhamma, the scaffolding upon which he has framed his specific expressions of the doctrine. In the course of his long ministry, the Buddha taught in different ways as determined by occasion and circumstances. Sometimes he would enunciate infallible principles that stand at the heart of the teaching. Sometimes he would adapt the teaching to accord with the proclivities and aptitudes of the people who came to him for guidance. Sometimes he would adjust his exposition to fit a situation that required a particular response. But throughout the collections of texts that have come down to us as authorized word of the Buddha, we do not find a single sutta, a single discourse in which the Buddha has drawn together all the elements of his teaching and assigned them to the appropriate place within some comprehensive system. And this is worth noting. Let me mark this. Okay. So why didn't the Buddha do this? Why didn't the Buddha, put together his teachings and in a systematic structure, assign them to an appropriate place within some comprehensive system? The following paragraphs will explain. Okay, next paragraph. Okay, Sister Chaikan, would you like to try your new mic?
Okay, can you hear me? Can? Yeah. While in a literate culture in which systematic thought is highly prized, the lack of such a text with unifying function might be viewed as a defect. In an entirely oral culture, as was the culture in which the Buddha lived and moved, the lack of a descriptive key to the Dhamma would hardly be considered significant. Within this culture, neither teacher nor student aimed at conceptual completeness. The teacher did not intend to present a complete system of ideas. His pupils did not aspire to learn a complete system of ideas. The aim that united them in the process of learning, the process of transmission, was that of practical training, self-transformation, the realization of truth, and unshakable liberation of the mind. This does not mean, however, that the teaching was always expediently adapted to the situation at hand. At times, the Buddha would present more panoramic views of the Dharma that united many components of the path in a graded or wide-ranging structure. But though there are several discourses that exhibit a broad scope, they still do not embrace all elements of the Dharma in one overarching scheme. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sister Chekwan. Okay, so this is the reason why there's no systematic structure coming from the Buddha. Firstly, the context is that it was an entirely oral culture, as was the culture in which the Buddha lived and moved. The lack of descriptive key to the Dharma was not significant, was not considered significant at that time. Okay, let me highlight this. Within this culture, neither teacher nor student aimed at conceptual completeness. The teacher did not intend to present a complete system of ideas. His students, his pupils, did not aspire to learn a complete system of ideas. During that time, the aim that united them in the process of learning, the process of transmission, was that of practical value, practical training, self-transformation, the realization of truth, and unshakable liberation of the mind. Okay, I think this is the important part of this paragraph to understand why there wasn't this systematic thought expounded by the Buddha. Okay, next paragraph is the Billy. Would you like to read?
The purpose of the present book is to develop and exemplify such a scheme. I here attempt to provide a comprehensive picture of the Buddha's teaching that incorporates a wide variety of suttas into an organic structure. This structure, I hope, will bring to light the intentional pattern underlying the Buddha's formulation of the Dhamma, and thus provide the reader with guidelines for understanding early Buddhism as a whole. I have selected the suttas almost entirely from the four major collections or Nikayas of the Pali Canon, though I have also included a few texts from the Udana and ITBW, two small books of the fifth collection, the Khuddaka Nikaya. Each chapter opens with its own introduction, in which I explain the basic concepts of early Buddhism, that the text exemplify and show how the text give expression to these ideas.
Thanks, Sister Billy. I think it's quite a straightforward paragraph. Nothing much to add. Next paragraph, Sister Lin Twine, would you like to read?
I will briefly supply background information about the Nikayas later in this introduction. First, however, I want to outline the scheme that I have devised to organize the suttas. Although my particular use of this scheme may be original, it is not sheer innovation, but is based upon a threefold distinction that the Pali commentaries make among the types of benefits to which the practice of the Dhamma leads. Number one, welfare and happiness visible in this present life. Number two, welfare and happiness pertaining to future lives. And number three, the ultimate good, Nibbana.
Okay, thanks, Sister Lin Twine. Okay, so Bhikkhu Bodhi organized this book based on this threefold distinction, which was also used by the Pali commentaries. What are these three? First, welfare and happiness visible in the present life. Second, welfare and happiness pertaining to future lives. And the last one, the ultimate good, Nibbana. Next paragraph, Sister Aikim, would you like to read?
3 preliminary chapters are designed to lead up to those that embodied this threefold scheme. Chapter 1 is a survey of the human condition as it is apart from the appearance of a Buddha in the world. Perhaps this was the way human appeared to the Bodhisattva, the future Buddha, as he dwelt in the Tusita heaven, gazing down upon the earth, awaiting the appropriate occasion to descend and take his final birth. We behold a world in which human beings are driven helplessly towards old age and death, in which they are spun around by circumstances so that they are opposed by bodily pain, cast down by failure and misfortunes, made anxious and fearful by change and deterioration. It is a world in which people aspire to live in harmony, but in which the untamed emotions repeatedly compel them, against their better judgment, to lock horns in conflicts that escalate into violence and wholesale devastation. Finally, taking the broadest view of all, it is a world in which sentient beings are propelled forward by their own ignorance and craving from one life to the other, wandering blindly through the cycle of rebirth called samsara.
Sister Aikim. This will be the brief description of the first chapter, talking about the human condition and our conditions. Okay, next paragraph, Sister Shomi, would you like to read? You're muted.
Sorry, chapter 3.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2 gives an account of the Buddha's descent into this world. He comes as the one person who appears out of compassion for the world, whose arising in the world is the manifestation of great light. We follow the story of his conception and birth, of his renunciation and quest for enlightenment, of his realization of the Dharma, and of his decision to teach. The chapter ends with his first discourse to the 5 monks, his first disciples in the deer park near Varanasi. Chapter 3 is intended to sketch the special features of the Buddha's teaching, and by implication, the attitude with which a prospective student should approach the teaching. The text tells us that the Dharma is not a secret or esoteric teaching, but one which shines when taught openly. It does not demand blind faith in authoritarian scriptures, in divine revelations, or infallible dogmas, but invites investigation and appeals to personal experience as the ultimate criterion for determining its validity. The teaching is concerned with the arising and cessation of suffering, which can be observed in one's experience. It does not set up even the Buddha as an unimpeachable authority, but invites us to examine him to determine whether he fully deserves our trust and confidence. Finally, it offers a step-by-step procedure whereby we can put the teaching to the test, and by doing so, realize the ultimate truth for ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Shomi. Okay, so chapter 2 talks about how the Buddha come into this world, comes as the one person who appears out of compassion for the world. And chapter 3 is about how should we approach the Dharma? How should we approach the Buddha's teachings? Okay, Any questions or comments before we end for today? Okay, if not, let's do a dedication. 宴消三障诸烦恼，宴得智慧真，不厌追当嬉笑处，时时常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a good Friday ahead. Thanks everyone for participating. See you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.